On today's episode, we have UKC's Vice President Todd Kellam. Also joining us is Chris Ingram, the editor of UKC's brand new magazine coming out in 2025, the American Field Sportsman's Journal. That magazine will be the main topic of today's podcast. You're listening to the UKC Hunting Ops podcast, celebrating hunting dog heritage, competition, and community. United Kennel Club has been the hunting dog sports home for coonhounds, beagles, retrievers, pointers, cur, feist, and more for over 125 years.
September, you're all anxious for the season. Then you're right in the heart of it, and then yesterday I was shutting my cabin down for the fall, so that's kind of depressing.
Oh, come on. There's still some good hunting to be had, Todd.
There is, but those are the beautiful glory days that everybody loves. So, yeah, we have late season up there too, but and it's good. It's all good. Then there's other games to play.
That's right.
We'll start shooting some ducks or something.
Yeah, here at Michigan, deer season is still in here as we speak, so that's, for me, that's I got to kind of step away from my hunting most of the time, kind of let the deer hunters in the woods.
The beagle run is going to get good here.
Yeah, it will. It will. So, and now we've had a couple snows already too. So
that's right.
So
yeah, good time of year.
Yeah. Hey, I want to welcome all of our listeners today. Today I got some special guests on. We have Todd Kellam, UKC's Vice President. Welcome, Todd.
Yeah, good to be back in the studio.
Been a little while.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, we don't see you here in the office very often, but yeah.
I like the podcasting that we do in studio. I'll be honest. I like these the best.
Yeah, and you were talking about your cabin there, so you spend quite a bit of time up there, and you actually work a lot remotely from the cabin.
Yeah.
So
I'm not hunting all day.
One day I might be lucky like you are and get to work from a cabin. So
put your time in.
Yeah. But hey, you can't deny that. You put your time in here for sure. This month here in a couple of days, I'm going to be my 20th year.
Wow,
that's hard to believe.
It is. Congratulations. That's a milestone.
Yeah. But hey, this other guy we're hearing here in the background here, Chris Ingram. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Alan.
First timer on the podcast, right?
I believe, yes. First time in front of it, absolutely.
Yeah.
This podcast.
Yeah, you're kind of a new face, new name for UKC. So we're going to talk a little bit about what you got going on today. That's kind of the main topic, and we're going to get that into that here in a little bit here. But for starters, let's dig into your personal bio a little bit and tell our listeners what that looks like. Who's Chris Ingram?
Yeah, let's see. So Chris Ingram lives with his wife in Vermont now, where it's a beautiful place to be an outdoorsman, hunting, fishing, opportunities of all kind, Green Mountains, Lake Champlain. I got sort of like a later onset really into the hunting and working with dogs there. I grew up in Wisconsin, so started with a little bit of deer hunting. But
I did not know that.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. But we had CWD. They found it in the state very first season, just passed hunter safety and got out in my first hunt, and it was just like, man, we got to wait to see what this is going to look like. So kind of took a break from there, went off, finished school and college and moved to Vermont and kind of got back into the outdoors and been chasing game and dogs ever since.
Yeah, so what kind of game do you prefer? What's your hobby of choice if you have one?
Man, I've done a lot of different things, but lately it's been squirrels. It's just when you look around, that's what's near me. They're abundant, no shortage of opportunities, permission's easy, less competition. So once we add a feist into the mix, I'm going to be happy as ever. So
yeah. I remember the first Zoom meeting I did with you soon after you came on here. I saw there on your wall behind you there, you had dogs, some squirrel dogs, I think, and some others. And I'm thinking, yeah, this guy's going to fit right in here.
Yeah, it's funny. Just like personally and professionally, I've gotten the chance to see all the different dogs. Started with retrievers, waterfowl hunting, being in Vermont, getting into the uplands, chasing grouse and woodcock and pheasant at the preserve. Later got into the hounds, some coon hunting, some bear hounding. Chasing beagles and rabbits and that, so I've really been able to see a lot. So, little did I know I've been sort of building my resume to get employed by UKC the whole time without knowing it.
You mentioned coon hunting. Wisconsin. I've been to a lot of states. Todd, you have too, but Vermont's not one of them.
No, but they got some pretty strong clubs.
Yeah,
the club up in the Northeast does a lot of events. And
Lindenville.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I always remember the name of it.
Yep.
I know their club ID number, Vermont 6.
You wouldn't think it, but yeah, I mean, and UKC continues to be a stronghold. They don't have much of the other registries doing too much now.
Wisconsin, living in Wisconsin and Vermont, there's a lot of differences, got to be, or is it not as much as we would think? Maybe.
Yeah, especially where I'm at, I'm in ag country, so a lot of the dairy farms and apple orchards and that. The big difference is they got the mountains and.
Who's the blue tick guy that lives up there? Dan Rainville? Does he live in Vermont? I think he does.
I don't remember that.
He lives out in the country. I think he trims cow hoofs.
Really?
Yeah,
Yep,
could be.
He's a cow hoof trimmer, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, they both like their craft beer. And gosh, the only other thing is the cheese is white in Vermont. It's yellow in Wisconsin. I'll eat it the same. So
yeah. Now you got trout fishing opportunity up there too, don't you?
We got quite a bit of trout fishing.
Yeah, the Northeast. I would like to get up there and trout fish. What I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go to Maine here I got an invitation to go up there to hunt hares, and I couldn't make it. I was in Louisiana, I think, that week. It was the week of that for that Crown Championship. Yeah. So, but I'd like to go up there sometime.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got the warm water fishery on Lake Champlain, and you got trout streams, a little bit of everything, which is why I like it there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, be a good one to go to sometime. A good area. Never been in that area. So, Chris, let's unless Todd, you have some other things here, but let's talk about your position here at UKC.
Yeah,
what are you?
Yeah. So I'm titled with Marketing Promotions Manager, and I touch all sorts of things at the company, from the Hunting Ops podcast here to some of our events, merchandise, social media, and anything else that comes up. And we'll get into the American Field being a big project here. But, I work with lots of different teams and kind of just try to help the business move.
And you had a background in that.
Yeah, I've had a pretty diverse background, everything from digital media and marketing to editorial to all sorts of things,
Yeah. So how long has it been now? Several months, right?
6 months.
6 months already? Gosh, time flies.
This past week, I think, it really has. It was... getting into Premiere.
Yeah, it was Premiere time.
I've been here 3 or 4 times already now, visiting Michigan here. So it was great to just really get started, hit the ground running.
Yeah, so most of what you're going to be doing is going to be remotely from home there. And
yeah, mostly.
How does that work out? Have you had other jobs where you did a lot from home remotely like that? Have you?
Yeah, and really, I would say since the pandemic, and it really works for my workflow and style, and because I can get up early or work late, whenever the work needs to be done. Yeah.
There was a time when we used to think that's just not possible to be able to, to work here and work remotely. But that's become, even just in the last couple of years, and even more so looking forward with the things that we're working on, especially in our hunting ops department. Why we're going to see a lot more things probably. I know I can. Have the tools to work from home when I can't be here. So that's also nice sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, cool deal. So we talked about one of the topics today is going to be a new magazine.
That's right.
The American Field Sportsman's Journal is the name of that's going to come out in 2025. But there is the American Field. That's a name that's synonymous to the dog world, and specifically the bird dog world.
Yep.
There's a history there. Can we talk about that a little bit first?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll maybe kind of set the stage, and Todd, you can take over.
Tell us what you know about the original publication.
Yeah, so
1800s, right?
1874. 150 years.
That's crazy.
So back in early October of 1874, America had its very first pointing dog field trial. It was outside of Memphis, Tennessee.
Yep.
And, once you start that, you got to have a record of it. You got to kind of share the news, and this sort of competition world was birthed around that. And so what started as a single event became sort of a publishing company. The Field Dog Stud Book sort of wove its way into there, and it traded hands and names a few times early on, but I believe by the late 1880s was when it became the American Field and settled in Chicago, where it had been, printed and operated until 2021. But the brand American Field has always been synonymous with these pointing dog field trials, although, we've got archives here going back. The earliest I found was 1875.
Wow.
And I mean, it smells it feels it. It's sort of an experience to hold that.
That we have here in the office.
Yes, sir.
Really?
That's right.
Man, we have a lot of our studio is downstairs where we have a lot of the old records, and I
Yeah.
still like to dig through some of that old stuff. You almost don't want to touch some.
You
got to
be careful because
Yeah.
you could spend days down here.
Yeah.
It's
It
wonderful.
needs to be better organized.
Well, the first Coonhound Bloodlines that I've went back through are like in the 40s. And I'm not sure when those
I say
started.
we got them older than that, right?
Well, I don't think they were even called. They were just called bloodlines,
Bloodlines.
just
Right.
bloodlines at then. But in the 1940s, I saw some of those, and
Yes.
that's where I figured out or learned that UKC used to register. Don't quote me here, but I think goats and
Yeah, rabbits. Yep.
rabbits and goats.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
And I've used that on little. little
We'll have a museum someday. You watch. It's going to happen.
need to.
Some of this cool memorabilia can be displayed. And
Yeah, kind of butted into your.
No, that's good. That's good. We love the history here. We love carrying on the tradition, being these torchbearers. And so that was one thing I had to do in this sort of rebranding effort of the American Field is how do we pay tribute to what's been laid before us and how do we modernize it? Todd, maybe you can talk about like the sort of transition and the merger with the business transaction, but from an editorial standpoint, I wanted to pay attention to how can we sort of continue the legacy of this iconic brand, this piece of American history, but also give it, a little bit of a UKC bent and, sort of expand this audience base. So in that, not only are we covering bird dogs and some field trials, but the new concept of the journal is going to encompass all types of hunting dogs. And we're talking bird dogs, retrievers, beagles, big game hounds, squirrel dogs. I've even already been chasing terriers and turkey dogs and, talking about sight hounds and working dogs.
Yeah.
And we really want to focus on the relationship between humans and hunting dogs and everything we do. That's really representative of who we are here at UKC.
Yeah.
and that's similar to the mark of the original
It is.
American Field
That's right.
Journal. It's back then I can remember seeing, well, I don't remember seeing it, but hearing about and talking to Bernie that there would be trap shooting articles or fishing or
the original department.
Wide variety of stuff.
It was a Sportsman's publication. I mean, one of the oldest ones that have been around there with some of the other iconic titles, but the original departments from back to the 1880s was like natural history, that trap and shooting. They had fishing stories, hunting stories, rough grouse shooting in Indiana. And these gentlemen would get on boxcars and would go camp out somewhere and just be dropped off and, sleep in tents and eat out of cans and have this hunting adventure. And so that's the content that was in the original American Field. And, the publication itself, we've sort of rebranded and given it a new name, new life as the American Field Sportsman's Journal. So that's sort of our updated version, and like you said, Todd, we're bringing it back to its roots, and not only are we talking about these hunting dogs, but we've got other departments to cover wild game cooking, guns and shooting, conservation, hunting dog health, and just all of these other elements that sportsmen and women concern themselves with, this really well-versed, detailed sort of offering of content.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we go any farther, I think what we need to do is make sure all of our listeners are clear because we also have a publication or a newsletter.
Yep.
It's called UKC Field.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the similarities and differences of those two because honestly, they both spawn off of this original American Field Journal.
That's right.
And we're going two different directions now, and the listener base needs to know that we're going to continue to publish both of them.
Yeah.
Okay? And they're a little bit different.
That's right. Yeah. So I think what most of our customers and those participating in the sport, what used to be the American Field, those upcoming trials, results, title changes, things like that, essentially now that's what we call our UKC Field, and that's available as a monthly newsletter in print and digital format. So that's going to continue. And the new American Field Sportsman's Journal is going to be like very much essentially editorial, storytelling, narratives, photos, art, different literary works.
Right.
Yeah.
And where we had just previously said that the original American Field started out all-encompassing, towards even at middle part of its existence, it narrowly focused in on pointing dog field trials.
It sure
And
did.
that's what it became known for, and people loved it, and it grew. And
Yeah.
It really got its focus really narrowed up.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to pay homage to that because we've got a standing, feature section for field trial, and essentially that's pointing
right.
dog field trial. So, we work closely as an organization with some of the affiliates and some of those members and customers that way. So we're going to continue to serve a particular dedicated platform for like the sport of American Field. Yeah.
One of the unique things about the magazine, the older, and you, Todd, you have a couple magazines down here, one an older one and a newer one, just kind of show us the differences here. But it was the size of it. That's one thing that was kind of unique to that magazine.
Yeah,
a larger
11 by 14, I think.
And that was sent out weekly.
It was weekly, and gosh, if you guys...
Can you imagine that?
The listener base isn't going to be able to see this, but...
Do you see how much words is in it?
Well, I was just going to say,
look
look at the point size.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You couldn't begin to read it without glasses.
That
now,
should be it. What is that? How many pages was that one?
This was 100.
What year is that?
This is a Christmas issue that I'm looking at from 1980. Christmas issue, 105 pages, I think.
Wow, that is a lot of content.
And then by the year 2017, the same Christmas issue is down to about 40.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a trend that a lot of print publications saw, Coonhound Bloodlines being one of them.
Yeah. Well, Todd, do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of what the merger, this acquisition, and those different components of American Field? We're still carrying some of those on.
Yeah. So, gosh, before that, though, I want to talk about when I got hired at UKC, that would have been 1988. And I had, so this is what I'm leading to. This is where I became familiar with American Field.
Yep.
So I started here in '88. I had a Brittany puppy. I was hunting the coonhound night hunts. I got brought in to help get the beagle program started. So that little Brittany I had, I was just hunting her, right? But she was a registered dog. As soon as I come to UKC, now they have a trade agreement with American Field and Coonhound, all of our publications. So we send them our publication and they send us theirs. So for the first time when I get here, I'm like, wow, there's a whole, magazine, newspaper-like thing devoted to pointing dog field trials and pointing dogs. So I loved it. I would follow that dog that was the sire of my little Brittany. He was a Nastra, National Shoot to Retrieve dog. And so I so much looked forward to this Christmas issue every year. It was 4 times larger than the weekly. And I think, Chris did say this was a weekly publication. I mean, think about that. But this one was super special, and you'd look forward to it all year. So
that was the only special magazine they put out each year, was just the Christmas special?
Well, it had color.
Yeah, it had color in the middle of it. And it also had, a lot more articles, more editorial-like. So that's how I become familiar with it, and eventually became more familiar with American Field. Now, I wasn't attending their field trials. As you know, we had a lot on our plate here.
Yeah.
So, but when I sat down with Bernie, as we were, starting to discuss the acquisition.
And Bernie was the former
owner of American Field.
Yeah, Bernie Mathis. So I was very familiar with this part of their business. It was probably what I was most familiar with. And it had just recently gone out of print. So that was sad. So during the pandemic there, it had went to strictly digital. And, our goal, I think from the beginning, was to, if we could get the acquisition done, to get this back in print, to not lose its longest running status.
Sure.
It was important.
Yeah.
And it's been something we've been working on ever since, honestly.
It's been 3 years in the making. Yeah. And so I think a lot of the customers, and for everybody else, the American Field was a package deal of sorts, because you had the publication, you had the publishing company, you had the FDSB, the Field Dog Stud Book, and the sport of it.
Right.
And we've, our company has been, since that time, been sort of migrating those aspects into our ecosystem. And what does that look like now? Because we've got a couple of the things.
Oh, I mean,
right?
and it's still, there's some other things I wish I could say and tease right now, but that brand, that American Field brand, is going to do nothing but get stronger.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So as far as the Field Dog Stud Book, that has successfully been merged with UKC's database. So something we're still working on, but that has went very well. That's up and going. Some of their online registrations are all available now that they didn't have previously.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, there's been some good things happen and more to come.
Yeah, and to touch on that a little bit too, as I understand now, it's a dual privilege registry system. So are folks able to compete on both sides? What does that look like?
Yeah, that term, I was hesitant to use that, Dual privilege is okay. Dual registered, no, we're trying to get away from that. It's one registry. Right? But let's look at it this way. Dogs that are 10 years old that were previously registered UKC, they're eligible to go run in an American Field event. And dogs that were previously just registered with American Field, they're eligible to go show at Premier or one of the shows.
Yeah.
So, yeah, dual privilege, yeah. All those dogs the old dogs that carry one set of papers or the other can go to both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the sport of American Field is now that's in our hunting ops program, Alan, that you work on.
It is now. Yeah. It's in my department. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one that I'm the least familiar with, in the last several years, or mostly in the last year since the acquisition here, is where I've tried to educate myself a little bit more on it. My forte was coonhounds and beagles and squirrel dogs and such, so it's still kind of, to me, it's still new, seems new. And there's a lot to unwrap, lot to learn, but I've always loved pictures of pointing dogs. I don't know. I'm a hound guy, but still, that's a photo of a dog on point is just hard to beat.
And you came up and ran dogs with me a couple of years ago.
I did, and I loved it.
We had some good.
But you can only do so many things. I love to play golf, and I love to play guitar, and I love to do a ton of other things, So, you know how it is. You got to kind of pick and choose a little bit.
Why those pointing dog photos always come out so well, right?
Why is that?
The pointing dogs are the easiest to photograph.
Probably that's true.
Got your daylight, your stationary.
Well, go try to chase some coonhounds or some beagles running through the camera.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Hey, I remember back in the old days before all the phone cameras and digital cameras and such like that. You had the little throwaway cameras or whatever, the little Fuji ones or whatever. And you took, I don't know how many pictures you could take in one, but there was more than one time I'd take one out and use them, every one of them up, just start shooting, try to get
and
one decent.
Still didn't know if you had a decent one.
No, you didn't until you went and developed them.
Right.
A week later.
Yeah. So, but no, you're right. But not just that. You can take video now and just move them to right where you want it, the position you want to get a good photo out of it. So it's much improved. But yeah, you're right. That would be the easiest. They're holding still. You're right, or they better be.
At least that I found in my experience, because you can put a bird out. You can when they're on point, they ain't going nowhere until you release them. So a good dog will hold, and it's just that the hounds and the running dogs are just a lot harder to get in front of. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, hey, before we get into more on this the new journal, the American Journal, is there anything else we want to hit on any of the older magazines? Yeah, the historical stuff.
Yeah, well, I think maybe one thing to say is, like Todd, you kind of mentioned, the American Field as a brand is going to continue to live on, and it's one of, again, American Field is a larger brand in UKC's portfolio. So the field trial sport. The UKC Field, now this new journal is its own publication. We've got some great plans for merchandising and, trying to just kind of help usher the American Field into the next millennial. Yeah.
Yeah, me not being as familiar as you guys are with it, but I would say that even after the acquisition and everything, the brand itself doesn't look that different, even though it's under our umbrella now. Does it really?
No.
It really doesn't.
No. And that was the idea right from the start, right? Because our companies were so aligned to begin with that it was not going to seem odd, to either customer base. So it's felt natural, and it's there's some learning curves, but
there is.
It's been
probably the processes for registering their dogs, this and that might be a little different, But and that's even changing as we're speaking, So. And getting a lot better, actually, But
No, I think for me, we just have to make it clear and hammer it down in this podcast that this new publication that we're going to tell you about is not going to replace the UKC Field. That's still going to come to you. It's going to have trial results, trial ads, everything that the original American Field eventually became. That's still going to come to you through UKC Field.
Yeah.
But now we got something additional that
That's right.
they're really going to like.
Yeah, and if I may touch on one thing too that's important for customers to understand, for us to talk about, is the new journal is also not just intended to be a membership based. You know, we're sort of breaking the barriers. We're going beyond that. We're interested in connecting with every hunting dog owner in North America. You know, no matter,
not just the UKC customer or
right.
Field Dog Club, but customer.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I mean, of course, we're a dog registry putting that out there, but we recognize that there's people out there with different types of dogs. You know, other registries, whatever. We just want to focus on that bond and that interaction, that celebration of this lifestyle that we have with our dogs.
Alan, you've been feeding Eukanuba dog feed for a while now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have, and I've really been able to put my beagles to the test, mainly running snowshoe hare up north where they run the hardest, where I put 15, 20, 25 miles on them easily in a day. And I've found that the premium performance sport has really paid dividends. Mainly, I noticed their stamina.
Yeah, same feed that I've been feeding. I think my dog looks good on it. He's really feeling good, and less kennel cleanup for me, so I highly recommend it as well.
Eukanuba, the official performance dog nutrition partner of UKC.
Okay, so Chris, you bring up an interesting point. If we target an audience beyond in scope, larger than UKC customer base and the American Field customer base, what could this potentially do for our programs, and how could it help to grow our existing programs?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited about that too, because I think, you know, in the hunting dog world, there's a lot of folks that, you know, just focus on the hunt. There's some, like Alan, you work with, that just focus on the competition side. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, this journal is going to be a place to sort of bring those worlds together. And not only just the journal, but, you know, introduce customers to everything we do at Hunting Ops and our other publications, the Hunting Retriever, Coonhound Bloodlines. We talked about UKC Field. Yeah. You know, this is going to be an incredible platform. It's not just a publication. We're trying to create a community. We're trying to spark a movement, really just get back to that relationship with dogs and just sort of level the playing field again. You know, I think from a brand standpoint, you know, when I look at this, is how do we position ourselves amongst competitors, say again with publications. You know, I quickly look to the UKC customer and that ethos that we have there. You know, it's very sort of blue collar working class, you know, DIYer, and it's just going to be an easy sort of mix there. Yeah, and I think a good balance. You'll probably see some competition notes in there. Some events, advertisements, and things of that nature. But
More
absolutely,
it's
related.
Not going to lean heavily that way.
Yeah,
right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, because again, you know, we don't want to sort of knock out CB, Coonhound Bloodlines, or Hunting Retriever, or anything else we're doing. They're going to be there to complement each other. Yeah, absolutely,
and not be the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've always, Todd, you know, I've always been interested in a magazine that covers a lot more of our platforms. I've always liked that idea. And this,
remember when we used to stick a 5-page Beagle section at the very end of Coonhound Bloodlines? Yeah. You know, you would think that people would say, "Oh, well, there's 5 bonus pages. I used to run Beagles as a kid.
Yeah.
I'll look." We would still get some complaints, though, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's 5 pages. You could have put more Coonhound stuff in there.
All right. Well, I'll be happy to let the listeners know that every issue of the new journal is going to have a dedicated section for Beagles. And I'm personally excited about that, because I don't know, as you know, there's as much representation in mainstream publication for that community. That's what we're trying to do, is to just provide a platform for everybody. And, you know, again, you don't have to be a beagler, a dedicated houndsman, a bird dog, or anything to appreciate what we're doing, because we're going to focus on those sort of threads that combine, that tie us together. You know, what do we have in common? Let's really just celebrate that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. So let's talk. You've already. So this is going to be a quarterly magazine. Most of our others, Coonhound Bloodlines, those are monthly magazines. What other magazines we have? Hunting Retriever magazine.
Bi-monthly.
That's bi-monthly. Coonhound Bloodlines is monthly.
Yeah. UKC Field is monthly.
UKC Field is monthly. This is going to be quarterly.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah. So we're gonna kind of just go off of the seasons, you know, spring, summer, winter, fall, and the content will be there to kind of capture what hunting dog owners are sort of thinking about or doing with their dogs during that time.
Yeah.
So 4 times a year, quarterly and 100 pages. We're going to put together this just beautiful assemblage of photography and stories and art and different types of literary works. We might have poetry or long form essays, short essays, humor pieces, off the wall illustrations, just different things.
Photo essays. Did you already say
yeah,
that?
Yeah, all sorts of things. Yeah.
So you talked about some of the articles. Give us an example of an article. You mentioned beagles. There's going to be some beagle articles in there, and I know that you're putting out a complimentary issue, like a review.
Yep.
What do you have in mind there? What is an example of what a beagle article might look like?
Yeah, and I'll say again too that we've created these sections, these different departments and these feature sections. So beagles, every issue is going to have pages dedicated, and issue to issue it'll change. The first issue, I've got a story of hunting in the Adirondack Mountains of New York, sort of a DIY guide, to getting out there. But the spring issue, we've got a piece on litter mates, and a beagler, Tom O'Connor from Minnesota, has raised beagles for generations and talks about, how the competition between litter mates and, what to make of it, how to navigate that. And there's a complimentary story by Bob Ford, who's a well-known beagler and outdoor writer, who's got sort of a personal, heartfelt story of how his father helped him get started, and it's a really cool sort of full circle tale. So again, it might be humor, it might be sort of a little how-to tutorial, might be just a fun, piece, whatever, sort of vary it up every time. I really want to create a new place for, not just the seasoned writers or the expert, freelancer, the professionals. I want to give a chance for everybody to participate.
Yeah, and you've got sections of the magazine set aside specifically for that, right? Some writer or some subscriber contributions.
That's
stuff.
right. Yeah, we have two sort of like user-generated, reader-generated sections. One based on kind of photos. Send us your photos, and again, it can be any kind of photo that you have. Another one we're calling First and Last, and this is an idea I've had for a while. Very excited to bring it to life about readers sending in their short essays of notable moments that they've had with their dogs. These first and last, those sort of iconic, memorable moments. Some of them very emotional, kind of tear-jerking.
I hope there's not very many of those last stories, because those kill me.
It's a part of it though, and it's something that we all share. It transcends the kind of dog you have or what have you. So
it is, and I still like old dog hunts. I still
That's
like
right.
to see those old dogs,
too.
As hard as it is. So I know what you mean. And I think back to some of my better dogs, and those are obviously the hardest, but hey, those, some of those first and last, it would be so cool to have. I wish we'd have had video back then when I was some of those dogs, that you'd like to see when they were puppies, when you first started hunting them, and some of those last trips too,
Yeah.
And
Well, that's it. Their lives live on, and we just learn and grow and share those moments together. So I'm looking forward to this, putting it out in the journal.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, unless Todd, you have something else here before you
No,
get
we
into
just got to make sure before we leave that I don't know that this term didn't get used exclusively, but people know what the term coffee table means. It's like a better quality, and that's one thing that this is going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be a better quality, version of
different,
a lot of what's out there.
Not the same paper type that they're going to see in
There's
Coonhound
gonna be the
Bloodlines.
higher end version of it, for sure.
Yeah.
Should be really
Yeah,
nice.
we've made some sort of strategic decisions and put a lot of thought into what this is going to look like. Bigger, thicker, heavier paper, photocentric. It's going to be something that you're going to, take to camp. It's going to live there. You share with your friends and family. Something it's almost a legacy product. Yeah.
A little bit more like book style type paper.
Yeah, I would say so.
For the lack of a better term, I guess, to explain. There you go.
Sure. More so than the cheapest magazine.
Well, yeah. But you see a lot of magazines today that are going to that thinner, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. So, but for early subscribers, we've done several promotions now, and let's talk about that a little bit. There's some of our early subscribers are going to get a preview issue here at Christmas time.
Yep, that's right. We put that preview issue to press earlier this week, and it's running through. And for some of our earlier subscribers that had to get in by a certain time, they're going to get that issue around Christmas time before the new year. And we'll have some extra copies available for anybody that's sorely missed out.
Can we say that there'll be some copies getting mailed randomly to some of our customer base?
Yeah, I think so.
Just to get some issues out there.
Yeah, we ordered extra ones, and we're going to mail them to some different groups of customers. We just want to get this out there to kind of get a sample in hand. Help see what it is. It's hard for us.
We need all of our people to talk about it.
Yeah, it's one thing to talk about it, but to see it in hand.
One of the ideas is for them to take it maybe to their club, lay it out at their club, let others see it and things like that.
Absolutely, because it's different. Again, I think coming into I don't want to say a saturated, but there's a lot of competitors and there's a lot of really good products, good companies, good publications out there. But for us to be different, again, we're DIY, blue collar working class, that sort of, I say ordinary, but we know who we are, as well as putting all of those different types of dogs together. I almost feel like it's a bit of a social experiment.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
It will be.
It'll be good. We've got a lot of good things planned, and it's incredible to see the content that's coming in, and it's something worth getting excited for.
Todd, you made a whole bunch of notes here you wanted to ask Chris. Have you covered all of them?
I think we've got most of them. What were we going to, let's see. I'm going nowhere yet.
You said 100 pages, and that's pretty much going to plan to stick with that, right?
Yeah, we'll see. We may need to play around a little bit. It's just there's a lot of different influences that come into making these decisions, and we're going to see what works for us. We're very interested to get reader feedback. We've got contact information. You've got a dedicated website. You folks know how to get a hold of us. We want to hear what you want, and we're going to create a product that reflects that.
So, Alan, I know you're gonna have the same experience, but how many times you been in an event? Let's say, I don't know. Say I'm going to a pointing dog event at a new club for the new region for the first time, and you get approached by customers that say, "I used to coon hunt," or one of the others. You go to a coonhound event, or one of your coonhound customers is now running hunting retrievers, Danny from Ohio.
Bigger.
Yeah. So there is this crossover, right?
Oh, yeah.
There is.
There's guys like me that like all of it.
Yeah.
You can't keep one of everything.
I'm actually one of those. I was predominantly a coonhound guy, and I dabbled in beagles too. And now I'm kind of doing more beagle stuff. But you're right. There's a lot of guys, like I saw that in Shreveport when I was down there for the Crown. There were several guys that came up and said, "Hey, I used to coon hunt." Mm-hmm. And actually the guy that won it, the Turner guy that ended up winning it, he used to coon hunt. He used to competition hunt. Wow. So there are a lot of crossovers. There's
there's guys,
all kinds
and Chris, I know you've seen this too. There was kennels that were predominantly pointing dog kennels that now have 2 or 3 cockers in them.
Oh, yeah.
Just people like the experience of different breeds and different styles.
Yeah. Well, and not, it's one thing to live vicariously by reading a feature story, but we're also going to put out a lot of here's how to get started, say with a big game leash tracking dog, or shed hunting or any of those kinds of things that, no matter what dog you got in the kennel, you're going to be able to find out that you can do more with it. And again, that's the UKC ethos is, we've got our all breed sports, we've got our hunting ops, total dog philosophy, looks the part, plays the part, can do a lot more.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys that predominantly coon hunt, say for instance, but a lot of them still have their squirrel hunts, or they have their in season, they have their family outings, going rabbit hunting and a lot of things like that.
It's all about the dogs.
It is.
That's it.
Kind of is.
Who has hunting dogs that doesn't go fish for bluegills? Yeah. So tell me that. Come on, everybody that has a hunting dog, I know fishes for a bluegill. Yeah. Takes the kids to the lake.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how do they find it, right?
Yeah, well, but hey, first, if I can ask a question, quarterly, is there going to be any feature? Are you going to feature anything in each one of those segments? Like spring, is that going to be a special geared towards any type of hunting or any type of dog or anything like that?
That's a good question. I think it'll largely reflect what's going on. So, spring issue, you put me on the spot here. I can't think of it, but I think again, hunting season in the fall will cover a lot of that. But spring might be more like breeding or training, different things like that. Summer off-season conditioning,
woodcock banding.
Yeah.
Something you like to do?
Well, he's done
it's a spring thing.
Yeah, but it'll reflect about that. And again, if we're missing something or somebody else got an idea, get in touch. Let us know about it. We very much want to be making this product for the people.
Yeah. So do you know when if a subscriber, so I get the spring issue, when am I going to see that in my mailbox?
Yeah, so I'm trying to be very diligent about that, like in our store and our communications. If you want this next upcoming issue, so say, for example, right now we're in production for the spring issue, that cutoff for a subscriber is January 20th. So if you'd like to get the spring issue, you got to subscribe before then. Yeah.
Okay, do you have the cutoff dates for the rest of them?
Yeah,
for the rest of them?
Yeah, we do. We've got a full production schedule, so we'll certainly kind of tease those out as we go issue to issue, and all that information's on the store too. We just want to make sure, especially with being quarterly, there might be some gaps, or you want to know what you're getting as a customer. It's different than a monthly publication. So
okay,
yeah.
So you started asking, where are they going to go to find this?
Yeah,
they can call, but they can go to the website. It's probably the easiest way to go.
Yeah, so we've got a dedicated website for the new journal, and that's journal.americanfield.com. And there you can learn more about like the history and our brand. You can learn about the publication. There's a chance to subscribe, to advertise, to contribute, to do all these different things. And again, get in contact with us. And then there's a link to the store, and that's part of the UKC store. So where you get your pedigrees and your merch and everything else, your other publications, that's where this is going to live. And so we're right now offering a 1-year or a 2-year subscription. Of course, a little incentive to go for the 2-year. You save some money there, and we'll have different promotions going on
I like
from,
that idea.
from time to
Doing some
time too.
promotions,
Yeah.
And they're going to see it on social media. And
That's right. Yeah, we're also on Facebook and Instagram. We're building our presence there. You'll probably see us at some of the events. Some of the bigger UKC events,
good point.
some of the trade shows.
Maybe some
So
shows.
we'll be there interacting with customers, and it's all about growth and putting our name out there right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I think you're exactly right. With some of the guys that aren't into the competition part of it, it's going to be, it really, not just that, but it will also allow them to kind of connect the dots to, back in the old days, I was thinking when you were talking about earlier on here in the podcast, you were talking about how they can, how it might be of value to them, because it kind of connects the dots. Back in the old days when we needed a dog, we got it out of the local newspaper or a neighbor or some local farmer or something like this. They can be, hey, there's an avenue, there's a platform for them to be a little more pick and choose, and as far as like breeders go and things like that.
Yeah.
We give them an avenue to maybe to some resources that they didn't know were out there. So
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's all about sharing information, building that
Yeah.
community, and just celebrating what we love.
Yeah,
Learning about some different breeds.
absolutely.
And there's lots of different types of hunting. You're
Yeah.
gonna see.
We got some stuff. I mean, we've got a sight hound story, the leash tracking dogs, hunting with
Turkey
handguns,
dogs.
turkey dogs, truffle hunting dog, all
Yeah.
sorts of off the wall type stuff. Yeah.
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 Alan, I know we both have new Dogtra Pathfinder 2s. How are you liking yours so far?
I'm liking it. I've even had the opportunity now to use mine where I didn't have service, where I download the map of that area, and it works flawlessly. Love it.
I agree. I really like my Dogtra Pathfinder 2 as well. I've used it quite a bit the past few months. I really like the crystal clear maps. I like that it doesn't lose service very much, and I don't have many bad things to say about it at all. Dogtra Pathfinder 2, the official GPS collar partner of UKC.
Yeah, that was different dogs, and what they can do has always fascinated me. Being a coonhound guy, you being a bird dog guy, you've had beagles and coonhounds too, but really, the people might find it odd, but the first dog I think that really made me appreciate what a dog can do, and that was a cattle dog.
Right, but
Just a cattle
look
dog.
how
Training,
smart they are,
getting
how
involved with
hardworking.
training them up, and just seeing what it could do, I think, is what made me appreciate what a dog can actually do. And it was not a coonhound or a beagle; it was a cattle
Well, I
dog.
bet he set the bar pretty high.
He kinda did.
Those
Kinda
dogs
did.
are smart.
Because the dog was he was of value to us.
Right.
You'd go up to the gate, open the gate, and sick the dog, and you just stood there and waited.
Yeah, that's impressive. We'll have to hear more about that, Alan.
I wrote a story about it. I had to write an article when I first came to work here, and Todd still laughs and mentions
I
that.
wish I'd have kept it. I have no idea where it's at.
Hey, I remember
Maybe
writing.
in your
I remember.
employee file.
Yeah, who knows?
I'm gonna have to check on that.
We'll have to dig that up.
Yeah.
Well, and that's it. I think, printing archival material, we've got 150 years worth at American Field, but, who knows? Maybe print some old hunting retriever, some Coonhound Bloodline stories too.
Yeah. You know, that has been kind of a popular section in our Coonhound Bloodlines, some historical sections or historical sections.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hey, what else do we need to cover here?
It's fun to talk about. It's been exciting. I want to thank Chris for allowing me. I've gotten to work on it a little bit. He's included me on some of the,
all of us,
the ideas. And I appreciate being included. We're all excited about it. So.
No, I'm happy. I just feel blessed to be in the position to kind of help put it together, being at some end of the funnel, working with everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's we've seen your first preview issue that's going to be hitting the mail here pretty soon. Here as we speak, we're recording this the week of Thanksgiving, so that's going to be hitting here in the next couple of weeks. I assume it's going to be going out. So we saw some of that, and it looks great. It's only going to, just so our viewers will know, that first preview magazine, if you do get that one, that's only going to be about half the size of what you'd expect.
Touch on that, just to clarify.
Yeah, he'll talk about this preview issue, and again, we wanted to get something out in the marketplace to show to our customers, give them kind of a snippet of what to expect. So, again, we ran it as an incentive to get some early customers, and those folks are going to see it around the Christmas, New Year time. And we said we'll have for sale some extra copies too, and you can see us at the shows.
But the page count different.
Yes, that's right. So normally we'll be looking to be at 100 pages. This preview issue is half that. It's 52.
So just because people need to be aware of that when they get this and hold it.
And again, I mean, to think about everything that we're covering, gosh, it's hard. It's in printing 4 times a year. It is hard to put it all into issue to issue. So we're doing our best to pick the right stories and have a good balance. But this preview issue is focused on, I would say, more of the features. It has a couple of pieces of what you can expect. But just wanted to get a little bit of a teaser out there. Yeah, especially with that look and feel. The new version of the journal.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
Good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep.
Yeah, well, good deal. So I think that probably about wraps this up, I guess. Unless, Todd, you got anything else?
That's all I got.
Chris, you got anything else?
Shoot straight, everybody.
Yeah. And enjoy the holiday season and the wrap up with the hunting season. And I'll just, again, one more thing is, go to the website, journal.americanfield.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram, and shoot us a message. We're interested in taking on contributors. We've got these reader-generated sections. We want to hear your feedback. If you do some writing or you just know somebody in your community, hey, you got to talk to this person. They got a heck of a story. We're here to provide that means.
All right, with that, let's sounds good. Let's wrap this up. And for our listeners, thanks for joining us today. And go check it out. And we really think you're going to like it. So
that's right. So, thanks, Alan.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to the UKC Hunting Ops podcast. Be sure to give us a follow so you don't miss any of our new episodes or content.